Did it work?
No. Let's start and we'll see.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the podcast, The Millionaire of the Diamonds. This, I think, is take three or take.
Yes.
It's working. Yes, we are live. Amen. Okay. This never give up. Never give up. And Melanie, I know you got to go. So as soon as you're done your part in French, just go. We'll take care of the rest. So again, welcome to the podcast, The Millionaire of the Diamonds. And what I was saying when I thought we were live and we weren't was this podcast is going to be 11 podcasts on basically one liners. I mean, it's really not more than that. Look at this, guys. Hang on. You see? So today we're covering number 3, one liner, but there's so much. And again, just remember when we first did the podcast on Think and Grow Rich, we would do the entire chapter within 30 minutes. And I was saying to Melanie and Marie Pierre, I said, what were we thinking about? So that's a reminder. When you begin something, just keep going, keep going, keep going. At a certain point, you're going to get it. So today, it's about a keen sense of justice, because here's the truth. You can have vision, you can have ambition, you can have talent, but if people don't trust your fairness, you will never build something that lasts. So what's going to happen here? I'm going to give you a couple of real life moments. It's all about the storytelling. Melanie Miller is going to break it down into the science, how we maintain a sense of fairness as human beings all the time. And Marie Pierre, I always love her part. It's called the social mirror. And just remember, if it's the first time you're joining the Millionaire of the Diamonds, we're not an inspirational podcast. We're not a motivational podcast. We're not a podcast of debate. We're just a podcast of transformation. This is what you're going to need to master whatever you're listening to if you want to achieve the next best level of yourself. That's financially, that's in your relationships, in everything. So before we move forward, who do you know that's unjust or contradicts themselves consistently? They're going to have to listen to the podcast this morning. So Marie-Pierre, over to you.
Yes, so it's time to share everywhere. So you have the text in the comment that you can copy paste it when you share. So you click on the arrow just beside where you write your comment. So you can share on every social media platform. But you will see that when you click on the arrow, you can also send it by messenger, by text message. Those one-on-one, that's the best way to make sure that they will click on the link. So if you have someone in mind that really needs it, so send it directly one-on-one. And then we have our contest. Limiana de Diamants group. Every time that you post, every time that you comment, I don't know if you froze or I froze, but I continue. So, when you go on our Facebook group, Millionnaires Demand special group, every time you post, every time you comment, you react, you gain points during the month to be in the top 10 computer of the month. And at the end of the month, the official top 10 get a voucher to go shop on the boutique Millionnaires de Diamants. And then we have the draw every month. So to be in the draw, there's two ways: first with the boutique or with the book. So every time you place an order, you take a picture, you receive your order, you take a picture. Same thing with the books, you receive your book, you take a picture, you're reading one of the book, again, you can take a picture, you're using your agenda, you can take a picture, you're using one of the quiz book, you take a picture, you can have a new picture every day that you can post on social media, and always tag Les Millionnaires de Diamants to be in the draw. And if you don't already have your ticket for the next conference, click on the link. It's time to get your ticket because it's a virtual conference. So all around the world, you can join us for the conference. And if you cannot be with us during the conference, you can watch it in replay. It's okay. You receive the link when you are registered for the conference. And for those that want to be in the studio, we still have some places in English. So send me a message when you get your ticket if you want to be with us in the studio during the conference.
I love it. I love. Are we live?
Yeah,
We are? Okay. So
yeah,
no
yeah.
comments. It's one of those
Yes,
mornings.
I see the comment you don't see, but I see.
Okay. So I don't see the comments. I just want to say to everybody, thank you for hanging in there. Welcome again. So let's dive in right away. So a keen sense of justice. It's point number 3. Remember the major attributes of leadership. There's 11 of them. We're going to cover them one by one so you can intentionally say, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work on this. And somebody asked me yesterday, can we actually work on all 11 of them at the same time? Absolutely, because courage is required every day. We covered self-control. It's required every day. And today, a keen sense of justice. So I'm going to tell you something. Have you ever worked with someone who said one thing but did another continually? continuously contradicting themselves, continuously playing favorites. And you can actually see it continuously bending the rules depending on how they woke up in the morning. And, they're supposed to be in a sense of leadership. Okay. How did that make you feel? Honestly, small, disconnected, unimportant. And here's the truth about somebody that does not have a keen sense of justice. You didn't just lose motivation because of work. You lost trust in that leader. Leaders out there understand that if you're in a leadership position and you're not able to give the same response to everybody, you will lose trust. So leadership leaves, right? Leaders that do not have a keen sense of justice will create a lot of turmoil in the environment. And I know we've all lived that, including me. And as I say that, I go over and over in my mind. And thank God I'm a person of the right now, present moment. Because if you dwell in the moments where people were unjust with you, including our parents sometimes, oh my gosh, okay. So what you think is hidden is already known. Even the walls have ears. My mother used to say, remember, Maria, even the walls have ears, okay? From the moment you told one person, no, everybody will know. There's no secret from the moment you told one person. So let me give you real life example, because leadership is not a theory, it's a decision. I have condos in Saint Agathe. And Melanie Gingras writes to me, and she's a very powerful leader. So she writes to me, really excited. Well, a voicemail, so you see her excitement. Maria, Debbie has extra nights. I want to be able to go for 3 nights. She wants to exchange for me. She wants to give me 2 of her nights. Da, 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 da. And I remember Melanie Miller, Marie-Pierre, we were in the A-team at that moment, and everybody's watching me, right? So everybody has eyes. And it would have been so easy for me to say to this incredible leader who's crushing it in the business right now, oh, yes, 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 go. But I didn't. What I did was instead, I did a copy paste of an answer I had already given Annie Marchand, our number one, and I sent it to her. The rules are that nights are not transferable. And I know we can argue the fact, what does it change? I know. Maybe next year we'll change the rules, but until the rules aren't changed, these are the rules, and it's so important. And this is why incredible leaders like Melanie Miller, like Melanie Gingras, like Marie-Pierre, trust me, because they know the answer I give them will be the same answer I give everyone. And the last one I want to give you, or the other one I want to give you as an example, is Tammy. Now, remember when Tammy wanted to join the Diamonds, she was part of another business leader organization. We didn't cut corners. We didn't cheat. We went with the rule book. Do I agree with the rule book? It's irrelevant. The rule book of Tupperware said, da 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 da, we cannot transfer, no, no, no. So Mohammed and I agreed that we were willing to buy that part of the goodwill from the business leader legally, like legitimately. And it didn't work. They didn't want. So Tammy, a woman of integrity, what did she do, Melanie? She did what the rule book says 1 year of inactive, da da da, and she lost everything. So I always ask you, how badly do you want it? Because if people really want it badly, don't help them cut corners, cheat, or whatever, because it's going to fall all back on us. And that's what I want you to remember. The same thing with our kids. I know, Melanie, you have 3 children and you spoil them. And I know she's exactly like me and Mohammed. Whatever she gives one child, she's going to give the other child the other child. Otherwise, when parents say to me, oh, my children are always fighting, you're the problem. You create injustice, and therefore you're creating turmoil amongst your children. Yeah, but she didn't know I gave her. What? She didn't know. What? You think we don't have this internal radar that actually feels it? So today it is so important, because leadership without justice is like building a house on sand. It's going to look good from the outside, but underneath there's no foundation, and it will collapse. I'm here to tell you, it will collapse. When you are just, people will trust you. Your family will respect you. Your neighborhood will admire you. They will stay, and you will have friendships like me that you're going to say 45 years later. Okay. Those kind of friendships are built. They are built. And if you're not just, everybody will doubt you. Everybody will leave you, everybody will resent you, everybody will not even be proud of those successful because they're going to think they are successful because they're getting special favors. Now, the question is, how do you keep scientifically, like, how do I work this? Because this is something, an attribute you can work on every single day. I'm going to leave you in the hands of Melanie Miller.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you for those stories illustrating how a keen sense of justice has worked in your own life. So, are you someone who is deeply upset by injustice, or are you someone who barely notices it? Many of us are drawn to rescuers of animals. We are horrified by the injustice some creatures suffer, and we are often very willing to do what we can to help. But what about the human beings around us? Do we feel the same need to act, or are we quicker to judge, ignore, or say, that's not my problem? You may be surprised to learn that a keen sense of justice can be explained scientifically, and I want to show you 4 important things about a sense of justice in human beings. The first thing science tells us is that people do not all experience fairness in the same way. For some people, unfairness creates a strong internal reaction. Their brain responds almost automatically. Studies suggest that unfairness can trigger brain regions linked to discomfort, disgust, emotion, and decision making, while fairness creates a much more positive emotional response. There also seem to be natural differences between people. Some of that may be linked to genetics. Some of it may be linked to how strongly we compare ourselves to others. Some of it may be linked to the way our brain processes empathy. Interestingly, it's not always emotional empathy, simply feeling someone else's pain, that predicts a strong sense of justice. Often it is cognitive empathy, the ability to understand another person's perspective and to feel concern for what is happening to them. We also know that some neurodivergent people, including individuals with autism or ADHD, can experience injustice in a particularly intense or rigid way. For them, unfairness can almost feel like a physical pain. So already we can see a keen sense of justice is not just a moral idea, it is something that can be rooted in the way our brains and personalities are wired. One of the classic ways psychologists have studied fairness is through something called the ultimatum game. It is very simple. One person is given some money and told to offer part of it to another person. The second person can either accept or reject it. If they accept it, both people get the money as proposed. If they reject it, neither person gets anything. Now, from a purely logical point of view, you might think the second person should accept any amount at all because something is better than nothing. But that is not what usually happens. When people feel the offer is unfair, they often reject it, even though it costs them personally. Why? Because human beings do not live by logic alone. We also live by fairness. And brain studies suggest that when people receive an unfair offer, the brain can react as if something disgusting or painful has just happened. In other words, unfairness does not just feel unpleasant intellectually, it can feel wrong in the body. And this helps explain why people will sometimes sacrifice their own comfort, gain, or advantage simply to say, no, that is not right. Now let's look at something even more interesting. When people experience injustice personally, they do not all respond in the same way. Some become what psychology might call victim sensitive. These are people who become very alert to possible unfairness. They become watchful, suspicious, protective. They fear being taken advantage of again, and as a result, they may become less trusting and less cooperative. This is understandable. If someone has been hurt, disappointed, or exploited, they may start to expect the worst. But other people respond differently. Some develop what we call observer sensitivity, or what psychologists sometimes describe as altruism born of suffering. These are people who have suffered themselves, and because of that suffering, they become more compassionate towards others. They recognize pain more quickly, they feel solidarity with victims, they want to prevent someone else from going through what they themselves once experienced. So the same wound can produce two very different outcomes. One person says, I must protect myself. Another says, I must help others. And interestingly, some people feel both at once. They care deeply about justice, but they are also afraid of being used or disappointed. So again, a keen sense of justice is not simple. It is shaped by experience, emotion, and interpretation. This brings us to one of the clearest examples of justice in action, standing up to bullies. Why do some people step in when they see someone being mistreated while others stay silent? Sometimes it's because they have a strong observer sense of justice. They simply cannot tolerate seeing someone treated unfairly. Their moral compass tells them this is wrong. Other times it is because they've suffered themselves. They know what it feels like to be humiliated, excluded, or overpowered. And when they see it happening to someone else, they do not just see a victim, they see a version of their former self. That creates a powerful drive to act. And yet, even people with a strong sense of justice do not always step in. Why not? Because fear can interfere. Fear. They may fear retaliation. They may assume someone else will intervene. They may not want to stand up, out, or be judged by the group. So when someone does stand up, it is often because their sense of justice has become stronger than their fear. That is leadership. That is courage. And that is one of the reasons Napoleon Hill includes a keen sense of justice as such an essential leadership quality. Although some people are naturally more sensitive to fairness, research shows that we can develop this quality. One of the simplest ways is to ask, if I were in that person's situation, how would I want to be treated? This helps us to see beyond our own point of view. We can also challenge our own biases by asking, would I still think this was fair if the roles were reversed? Fairness is not just about the result, it is also about the process. People are much more likely to accept a difficult decision if they feel they were listened to, treated consistently, and given a voice. We can also strengthen our sense of justice by exposing ourselves to other people's experiences through volunteering, helping others, or reading and listening to different stories. And finally, we can reflect on times when we have been treated unfairly, or perhaps times when we were not as fair as we could have been. Because the more we practice fairness, the stronger that fairness muscle becomes. And the stronger it becomes, the more trusted, respected, and effective we become as leaders. So perhaps the keen sense of justice is more than saying, I know right from wrong. Perhaps it's the way our brain responds to unfairness, the way our experience shape our compassion, the way our empathy helps us to see another person's pain, and the way our courage moves us from outrage into action. The real question is not only, do I notice justice? The deeper question is, what do I do when I see it? Now I'm going to hand you over to Marie-Pierre for our quiz of today.
Yeah, thank you, Melanie. So it's time to do the quiz this morning. Because first, I know that when you hear justice, it sounds like a big word. But in reality, it's it shows up in all those small decisions that we can have every day. Because most people don't wake up and say, today I'm going to be unfair. It sounds like a good day for that. But it will happen anyway, not necessarily intentionally, but maybe emotionally, or when you want someone to like you, or when you want to just avoid conflict, or when it's just easier to say yes, or we just don't want to disappoint. And slowly we start to adjust our standard, and that moment that we and our standards start to shift, now the trust starts breaking too. So we'll see with the quiz this morning. It's all simple moments in life, but how do you react will tell you about how you really react when it's with the justice. So let's start this quiz. So you can answer A, B, or C for each question. So you want to be honest with yourself. It's not about who you want to be, but who you are right now. So let's start question number one. So you have someone on your team that asks you for a favor, and you like them and they perform well. So you normally wouldn't allow it, but what do you do in that situation? So A, I say yes because they deserve it. B, I hesitate, but I will adjust the rule. Or C, I keep the same rule for everyone. Question number two. You know that the right answer is no for something, but saying no will create discomfort. So what do you do? A, you say yes to avoid the tension. B, you say yes, but you feel that it's not right. Or C, you say no respectfully and explain why. Question number three. Two people ask you for the same thing, but you don't give them the same answer. So why did you do? So A, I adapt depending on the person. B, I try to be fair, but I adjust sometimes. Or C, it doesn't apply because I do exact the same standard for everyone. Question number four. Someone questioned some of your decisions. So what happened? A, I feel uncomfortable explaining it. B, I justify it, but I'm not fully clear. Or C, I explain it calmly and confidently because I know my standard. And question number five, how do you feel at the end of the day? So A, I feel that my decision depends on the situation. B, and I feel that I try to be fair, but I'm not always consistent. Or C, I feel that my decisions are aligned with my clear standard. So did you get mostly A's, mostly B's, or mostly C's? So if you have mostly A, you are leading emotionally more than structurally. So this means that your decisions are influenced by how you feel, who is in front of you, the desire to please or avoid the tension. So the risk is that people don't know what to expect from you. So you want to create a clear standard, just start with one and that you can really apply to everyone. So it will begin with something simple. Now, if you have a mostly B, you are aware but not fully anchored yet. So you want to be fair, you try, but you still adjust under pressure, and that create that inconsistency. So you want to decide before the situation happens, so it's gonna be easier, and you don't negotiate them. And if you have it mostly C, now you are building a strong, building trust through consistency. So this is strong because it means that people know where you stand, people feel safe with your leadership, and people trust your decision. So you can, and the next level will be to make your standard visible. So when you say them, you can share them, repeat them, because that clarity will strengthen the trust even more. So we don't want to be perfect, but to be consistent in that subject. So when you know your standard, don't change, your leadership become unshakable too. So first, define your standard in advance. So ask yourself when you want to decide, can I explain this decision really clearly, confidently to anyone? Because when you know exactly in your decision before the situation arrive, you don't have to think in the moment. You know exactly where you're going. Number two, pause before you answer. So give you time. So let me get back to you. So it's gonna protect you from reacting just emotionally, and it will bring you back to your principle. So you can have the time to ask yourself, is this based really on the principle or just how I feel right now? And number three, review your decision at the end of the day. So at night, ask yourself, where my decision consistent today? Not necessarily perfect, but consistent. So where did I stay aligned? Where did I adjust? Where can I can improve tomorrow? Because awareness is always the first thing to do. That if you want to build mastery in that subject. So on that, I wish you a beautiful day, a beautiful weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.